Hello, everyone, and welcome back to an exciting episode of The Game Hump. It's Wednesday night, but it's not Wednesday night. There's the trick. We're doing this a whole day early as sort of a special treat, a special edition. Why is it on a night early? Well, because our schedules just couldn't meet up, and Wednesday night is a busy night this week, but don't fear, have no worry. Next week we will be back on our regularly scheduled Wednesday night time slot at 9 p.m. Central Time on Wednesday nights. But this week, we're a week early, and if you're listening via the Podomatic podcast, you don't have to worry about that because it's always going to be uploaded on a Wednesday, so I don't even know why I'm talking about this. I'll probably just edit it out of that version. But here we are this week, a few days removed from the Wisconsin's Midwest Gaming Classic. I've got Dan on with me this week. Our panel is Dan. He's back again. And so is Matt. And both of those guys were with us at the Midwest Gaming Classic. So, Dan, how have you been? It's been a while since we've seen you last.
I've been absolutely fantastic, and I was also at the Midwest Gaming Classic this weekend in beautiful Brookfield, Wisconsin. Well, I had a big bag of stuff, and I would stop at the stop and go right over there by the light, and I would pull in and fit in with all the other people in Wisconsin. It was great.
I have no idea where you're going with that. Matt, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good.
How's Galaga there?
I'm addicting.
Nice. So
somebody got a hold of my PSP and uploaded some data on it, and I found it. Woohoo!
Oh, cool.
DuckTales.
And the puns just keep on coming. So what we're going to do this week is something special. We're going to talk about the Midwest Gaming Classic. It was, it's Wisconsin's biggest retro gaming convention. A lot of people came up for it. A lot of people braved the weather to come up for it. There was a lot of rain and snow and some pretty chilly weather in mid-April. Which was a little bit unexpected and not that great weather for sure. But, it still seemed to be a pretty great time, even for those that are not used to the weather. But what we can do first is just kind of talk about our experiences overall, what we thought of the show. Then we can maybe slide into what pickups we got at the show, any kind of gaming-related paraphernalia that we've been picking up lately. Either from the convention or not from the convention, and then just kind of talk about some things that we, in addition to what we thought of the show, maybe some advice, maybe some ideas, what we'd like to see in the future, what we've seen in the past, and where this convention is going to see exactly what does the future hold for the Midwest Gaming Classic. And I know Dan is just a ball of criticism just waiting to explode, so maybe we'll start with you.
Okay, to start with, the Midwest Gaming Classic is a cool convention. It's run by awesome people. There's a lot of fun things to do. But let's start with a few of the problems with it. One thing is the venue is not necessarily matching the size of the convention itself. There's a gigantic circus tent that all the vendors have been moved into. Now, if we go back into the history of the Midwest Gaming Classic, back when it was in Oconomowoc, or as the Hawaiians like to call it, Okanokahamawak, it was in this Greek-themed hotel, and there was a big indoor vendor room that took up probably about half the convention, and that was, I'd assume, the big draw in the early days of MGC, though I know it existed before that as some sort of a Jag Fest or something along those lines. It evolved into, at least my earliest goings, to this big indoor vendor room that was clean, it was dry, it was temperature controlled, and it was something that was fun and interesting to do, along with seeing the little museum rooms and things that were set up. It was a much smaller convention then. They went back to the Brookfield Sheraton, and when they did this, they put it indoors again, and it was still a little bit too big for that venue, and they eventually moved everybody out. Well, one of the problems that we've run into is parking. Toys R Us probably had 0 customers that whole day. Why? Because everybody there was parked for the Midwest Gaming Classic. I'd say halfway into the mall, into that mall area, was still people parking for MGC and walking over. So it's absolutely outgrown the venue. Let's talk about the second problem, and that's for what you're getting for a Saturday ticket. $40 is a pretty expensive ticket. I think it's a little bit cheaper for people who pre-ordered, but I don't think you're getting $40 value for most people who aren't there to hang out with friends, for going there. With that said, they're not hurting for people paying the money. I totally get that. This is just more of a personal criticism. Beyond that, the other thing that's worth noting about the Midwest Gaming Classic is a lot of the things that are in the museum, in the pinball room, and arcade room, we've all seen before, especially if you've gone in previous years. So it's, oh, look, somebody brought the Super Nintendo PlayStation, and we can't touch it. We can just kind of look at it. There's not a whole lot that's new beyond what's in the vendor hall and who comes and who you get to meet up with. So it's really more of a social gathering than it is a convention where there's new and interesting and entertaining things to see and do and hear, and the venue they're in is not ideal for the size of the convention.
I know exactly where you're going with that, and I agree with most what you said. I think that the whole event is definitely too big for that venue. I know that a few years ago there was talk about building a convention center at one of the hotels in that area that is also owned by the Sheraton, and whether it would be the Sheraton Convention Center, whether it would be, I don't even know what it would be called, but there was plans, or at least talk, about staying with the Sheraton, so that when the convention center was completed, the Midwest Classic would be kind of in as a bargain deal. Like, we stuck it out with this little hotel and this basically no space to do this event, and when that convention center gets built, we're going to be in. We're going to get a great deal, and we're going to have all of our shows there from now on, and it's going to be perfect. And if that wasn't, discussed, if that wasn't, kind of thrown out on the table and as a plan that they could use in the future, I really do think that the Midwest Classic was going to move. Whether that was going to be moving downtown to, like, either the Bradley Center where the Bucks play, or the Mecca, which is now called something different. I can't think exactly what the name of it is, but and that is the building where Gen Con used to have been held back in the early 2000s, and then 100 years before that or whatever. But and it didn't happen because the Sheraton promised that they were going to build some kind of a convention center. So I guess nobody really knows where that's at, and it's unfortunate that we're still sitting here wondering, well, okay, so where is this convention center going to get built? Is there going to be a convention center? Maybe there won't be, and I don't know. Is the show going to be still in the same hotel next year? I don't know.
What's one of the unfortunate things is that you have, like, the Portland Retro Game Expo and a handful of events that were MGC size just a few years ago and have exploded because they've been moving into bigger and bigger venues and have been, I don't want to use the term better managed, but have had more resources available to them because they weren't as limited by the venue.
Right.
And you're seeing that with MGC, is that you've kind of hit a balloon point to where at some point it's going to pop.
Yeah, I think I don't know exact numbers, but I know that a lot of people have been throwing around that the Midwest Classic in 2015 was over 10,000 people, and this year's it felt like there was more, because there were more people that I saw that were in the events downstairs. There were more people in the pinball area and the arcade areas. There were lots of people that came into TurboFest this year, I'd say more than we've ever seen before. And they also expanded the vendor hall a little bit by adding some more, tent space or whatever it was, and adding in a few different things. It felt like the vendors, while it did feel very similar, like almost a layout exactly where certain vendors were in the exact same spots the last 2 years, but it did feel like there was more there were more vendors, there were more options. It's like the pinball vendors were all kind of put together. Some of them stayed indoors. There were some, those like premium indoor vending spots where the museum used to be located. And yeah, it's weird. It's like, and you were talking to Dan about the Saturday entry fee of $40. I guess when I think of coming to a convention like this, I don't come up. And Saturday is a good day to come up because most people have that day off for work or whatever. And I think that I would like to, if I'm coming to a convention the first time, just to check it out to see what it's all about, I'd probably do a one-day pass just to see what it's all about. I think something like Gen Con, which is a much bigger convention, which brings in around 60,000 people, I think their one-day pass is $45. And that's an event that is all-encompassing, and it's 24 hours a day, for 4 straight days. That's kind of crazy. What do you know off chance what the complete package, like the whole weekend pass is for Midwest Gaming Classic?
I don't recall. I thought it might have been 50 or 60 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
I remember checking. I believe it was around $60 for the full weekend. It might have been 55 actually.
See, Dan, then you just gotta go the whole weekend. There's your simple solution to that. You just go the whole weekend. Just go the whole weekend. No, but they had Friday night events going on. They had the vendor areas open on Friday night. They did Saturday, and they did Sunday. And I don't know what the passes are for Friday night and Sunday, but they did wind up having that Friday night event, which from what I understand is going to be kind of a test or a precursor to see if they can move it to a 3-day event. Having them there all day Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Yep, I think that's going to be the future. I think that's going to be the future.
That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm checking real quick here just to see if we can even. Okay.
The site said it's 20 for Sunday, 40 for Saturday.
Yep. Yeah.
It doesn't tell us what the pre-order price was.
No, I don't know either. It might have been just 55 for the weekend.
Oh, pre-order? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But, I don't know. I think that next year or soon they're going to be doing the full 3-day weekend thing. I think the Friday night worked out really well. We were able to, with being part of the staff, they extended us over a full day so that we could get there on Thursday for what room rates and tickets and everything like that were comped for our groups. We were there Thursday to set up Thursday night and then set up all day Friday. And I have a feeling that if like it's an old convention joke where people try to get there a day early or whatever, and like to get to the Midwest Classic early, you arrive on Friday. Well, now I think if we started setting up on Thursday night and we want to start the show on Friday morning, getting there Thursday is actually going to become getting there Wednesday. So we'll either have to get there Thursday morning and set up all day Thursday to be done with it, or get there Wednesday night to set up all day Thursday to be ready for Friday. Which, it's kind of weird to think, but the Midwest Classic is such a quick convention. Like, it feels like it goes by like in a blink of an eye. It's like we spend Thursday night and Friday night all day setting up for a show that goes Friday night and then all day Saturday, and then halfway through Sunday we start tearing down stuff. And I would almost like it to get extended, and we would like to come there a day early, just so that there's more time in the middle to kind of just enjoy the show.
Makes sense.
Like, you set up for a day, you get 3 days of the convention, then you take another day to pull it all down. And yeah, though being a part of the staff and being just a con goer and just being able to enjoy the show are probably very different experiences. But I would like to say that this year, going in that extra day early and having everything up and ready to go by Friday at like 5 o'clock was so much more relaxed and so much more organized this year. And I'm only speaking from the TurboFest room and from the museum, the game museum, that perspective. But we had everything ready to go by Friday at 5 o'clock, and it was just awesome. There have been many years in the past where we would do like the VIG gamers would come in Friday night for a couple gaming tournaments or events or whatever, and we would still be in the middle of setting up, and we would still be setting up stuff until like 1 or 2 in the morning on Saturday morning, and then finally just being like, okay, we're gonna have to get up early and finish this Saturday morning, and oh man, it was just awful being that unorganized. But this year the planning for it also was a lot more. There was a lot more communication going, and there was a lot more organizing that was just started in like November. In November, December, January, and February, we've already got like all the games picked out that we're going to be doing, who's in charge of what, who's going to bring what the claims are, and a lot of stuff like that. And in years past, it seemed like we kind of waited until like January to even start talking about stuff like that. And I don't know. It was a good experience. I think because it was so organized, everyone had their own checklists of things to bring, had a very organized list of things that they needed to have for themselves. And if people weren't able to bring something, the next person up would just have it and just step up and be able to bring it. It was really awesome.
Like having Streets of Rage 2.
Yeah, Streets of Rage 2. That's funny. There's a mini story to that. It isn't really that exciting though. But I did buy a loose Genesis cart of Streets of Rage 2 for $15 from one of the vendors on Thursday. No, that was Friday. That was Friday, midday Friday. I felt like a schmuck. So I don't know how I got signed up for
that much now.
Oh, I don't think so. I was just in a supply and demand moment there. I needed to get into the vendor hall before it was open. I needed to go and bug people setting up, and I found one dude because it was funny. Like I was going through people that had most of their stuff set up already. I'm like, do you have Streets of Rage 2 for the Genesis? And they're like, no. Most people did not have it for whatever reason. I just kept walking, and I think it was, who was it? Larkin? Someone was next to me, and they're like, why don't you just yell it? Just yell really loud, like, I will buy someone Streets of Rage 2! And so then I just did that. I turned to a couple of the vendors, and I'm like, does anybody have Streets of Rage 2? I will buy it! And someone's like, hold on, I think I got it. And then he went through his box of Genesis stuff, and he pulled it out. He's like, here it is. And I'm like, all right, how much do you want for it? And he's like, I don't know, what, $15? And I'm like, sold! And I'm like, I could have probably said no, but really I was a beggar at that point. I couldn't have said no and sit here and haggle them and then walk away without it, because I was supposed to have brought it. It was on my list, and somehow I missed it. And there, now I have 2 copies of Streets of Rage 2, which is totally unnecessary.
That's a great game to have 2 copies of, though. That way you can listen to Yuzo Koshiro music on 2 different things at a time.
I totally can.
That is actually
there you
my
go.
speaker test game.
There you go.
That's your favorite test game?
Speaker test game. I have a couple of like nice Bose speakers hooked to PVMs and NEC XM monitors in my basement, and the Go Straight and Dreamer tracks on that are the tracks I use to like test to make sure the volume levels are okay and my right and left balance are working properly.
That's awesome. Yeah, that is a really good idea. Streets of Rage 2 is, man, the soundtrack on that game, it's so great. That one
game is actually probably one of the 4 or 5 best games on the Genesis, just in general.
Yeah, I bet. I believe that. I totally agree with that. I think Streets of Rage 2 is super fun. It's amazing that it's so much better than the first one because it's so much more polished, and then the third one was just kind of sort of a parallel step where it was like, I don't know, it's not a bad game. It's not as good for sure. But it's just...
The third one's kind of like, let's make screechy noises instead of music. Balance, fun difficulty, let's have the game cheat and be impossible.
Yeah, the difficulty ramps up crazy later on. It's insane.
But I hear Bare Knuckler 3 is a lot more easy and better balanced, yeah.
Bare Knuckler. It's a true...
In Canada, they released it as Moose Knuckle. No.
Wow. Okay, so Matt, your overall experience from the Midwest Gaming Classic?
I enjoyed it a lot. Like, I know for some people, going there just experiencing it as a con is fun. I actually enjoy the setting up and taking down. Just actually nice to be a part of something like that. I know I'm a tag along kind of for your setup and stuff, but I have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I think if we had gotten the keys for the TurboFest room on Thursday night, we could have actually had it set up on Thursday night. It took me, I mean, it took us about a half an hour to set everything up. It was awesome. We had in the TurboFest room, we had a PC engine hooked up to a PVM. We had a Super Graphics hooked up to another one. We had a couple Turbo Duos. We had a Turbo Graphics. We had a Turbo Graphics CD. Like, we had the entire gambit of all the NEC consoles. We even had a PC Engine shuttle in there.
No laser active.
Oh, you know what? We did not have laser active. You are right. We did not have Beamer this year, and that kind of goes along with a long list of guys that could not make it this year. That was kind of amazing. And amazing meaning I can't believe we actually managed to be a successful show, having missed so many of the guys that weren't able to show up. Channy, who is usually a constant every year guy at the Midwest Classic, he's also another one of the guys that run part of the TurboFest tour. He is a big force behind it. Actually, the main guy behind the one that happens in July at the Video Game Summit. He usually comes to Midwest Classic and was unable to come this year because of a sickness. So not having that leadership at TurboFest was difficult. Dan Hutchins, Ruffle Mao, he wasn't able to make it. Beamer, Brian McDonald, he is the laser active guru. He also contributes like a very huge chunk of our museum for the rest of the video game historical museum that we put together. Him not being able to make it was a really big deal. And then our own game hugger himself, Opethian, wasn't able to make it. And I mean, the list kind of goes on for a while. There were a lot of people that were unable to make it that have been coming for years and years. And it was just like, damn. I mean, with that said, there was still a lot of the usuals. I mean, you guys were there. Majors was there. And Matt and Ashley were both there. Matt Larkin was there. A lot of the guys that contribute in the museum, a lot of guys that contribute in the TurboFest room. Jody and his wife were there. But Jody's partner in crime, Sean, TurboCon, one of the guys that do a lot of mod work, were unable to make it. So it was like it was a mixed bag. It was so amazing that we were able to get everything accomplished, and it was great that everything was very organized. But it was really crummy that a lot of our regulars weren't able to make it. But then there were some new faces as well too. I mean, Nullity, who was there last year, he was there again this year. There were a few other forum guys. Joe Tucci was there. I met a few other guys. The group of guys that have a YouTube series called the Cartridge Crusaders actually hung out and spent some time in the TurboGrafx or TurboFest room with us. And our very last tournament of Sunday, which was a Bomberman tournament, and the winner got to take home a sealed copy of the new Adventure Island PC Engine game. And that was one of Desh's buddies from the Cartridge Crusaders show. That was really awesome. But like otherwise, there's just it was just great. It was just awesome seeing so many friends there, and I think that's what it's become to me. Over the years, whereas Midwest Classic was always just a place where I'd like to go and find those games that I don't have, and bring friends with me and experience the show and just have a good time. And now it's become sort of a social experience. I mean, that was what you kind of mentioned, Dan. Whereas it's like people come from all across the country, especially us being a bunch of forum rats, where we come across the country and we finally get to meet each other in person and just kind of shoot the shit and just talk about everything that's going on and how the show's going. And yeah, it was I think this might have been my favorite Midwest Gaming Classic experience yet. It was just a blast. Oh, and I'm trying to think. No, I'm trying to think of all the names that I'm saying, but I mean, I don't know if anybody even watches the show or not. But like, there was Jeff Lewis was there, and Brandon Deaf Guy Davis was there. Esther Bartley Sis was there. Everybody called her Bartley Sis like all weekend. It was hilarious. Yeah, there was a lot of really awesome people there, and it was just a lot of fun. I mean, we had stuff going on all weekend. Saru Maru was there, another one of our game hugger buddies. He was there. He brought his T-shirts and some more buttons, and he brought, holy shit, okay, he brought a demo of the new game Henshin Engine that we got to give out to some people. We got to test it out and play it for a weekend. Then there was Quan from the Neo Geo forums. He came and he brought in this amazing little gadget that he was working on, and he wanted us to test it all weekend, which was a Neo Geo to PC Engine converter that you could put Neo Geo cartridges, or I'm sorry, Neo Geo arcade sticks into the PC Engine. And we got to play with that over the weekend. We tested out like Super Dodgeball, the PC Engine dodgeball game, and we also tested out Fatal Fury Special using the Neo Geo arcade sticks, which actually felt incredibly natural and very, very nice. And that was a lot of fun. And then on top of that, we had our good buddy Dark Kobold come in and bring in Catastrophe, which we got to play around with, and that was actually really impressive. I don't think it was in there very long because we kept missing each other, and he brought it in on an EverDrive, so we got to test it out on that. He's going to be potentially making it on a Hue card, which will get possibly like the Turbo Reproductions guys to help him out with making actual Hue cards of that or not. But Sarumaru's game is going to be a CD, Super CD release, and it was actually really, really awesome. And I realize I've just gone on a whole TurboFest rant about all these things that are going on, but it was important. It was important. It was a really big deal, and it was really a lot of fun to get new development, new games, some news that came out of it. It was awesome. We had stuff going on the whole weekend in that room, and it was just great. It was just great.
Yeah.
Like Frosted Flakes.
They're great, indeed. But since we've overall, it isn't perfect. They need to get a bigger venue for sure. I don't know where that means they're going to go. I don't know what that means for them. Maybe Dan and Gary and JD and those guys are completely fine with this show only being around 10,000 people. Maybe that's all they want. The venue is inexpensive. They can bring in people. And they can keep doing the events that they want to do while keeping it kind of small and confined and easier to manage. From what I understand, there was only one or maybe two arrests over the weekend. One of the arrests was someone trying to sneak into the pizza party on Saturday night.
I heard about that.
It was interesting. Yeah, it wouldn't have been an arrest if he had just walked out, but apparently he resisted and was swearing or something, and they're like, "Get the fuck out of here! You're done." And he was banned forever, for life, from the event.
I heard this isn't the first time he attempted it.
No, it wasn't even the first time that weekend that he attempted it. He was trying to get into VIG. He was trying to get into a VIG event earlier or something. It was really weird. And he also was a part of a group of 4 guys that had run a vendor table there. And at first, they told him that the whole vendor team was being banned, and that apparently was lifted when the rest of the guys were like, "No, put him in jail. Fuck him. We don't want him." So that's kind of funny. But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know what the future holds. I'm hoping that it continues to grow, and if they need to move into a bigger venue, then so be it. But
I would like to see them, the Sheridan, actually fulfill that promise of having a convention center built for the future. And it's not just for MGC. They could use it for anything.
True.
They could expand a business there or something with a convention center.
Yep.
Who knows where they could go with that, really.
Yep. I think that would be a really, really good option if they were able to do that and then continue to stay like in that local central area for them. But if they move to downtown Milwaukee, and this is an issue in lots of towns that are large-ish towns. I mean, Chicago can probably handle anything, but unless it's a city specifically built for events, convention centers, sporting events, things like that, it's pretty difficult. And Milwaukee has a very much so barren wasteland of hotels downtown. That was why Gen Con left, because there's only like 5 big hotels in the big like metropolitan area of Milwaukee. So if you were going to do something like the Midwest Classic in Milwaukee and expect it to double in attendance, people are going to be staying in hotels that are 20 miles out by the airports and stuff like that, or out of town, and that's going to be really unfortunate. That's why I got to stay on staff so I don't have to worry about that stuff. But
I have to be a tag-along, so I don't have to either.
Yeah, that would be awful, and that's what Gen Con was all about. Gen Con in Indianapolis is awesome because there's like 23 hotels that are all connected to the frickin' convention center there. It's like a city built specifically for events and conventions like that. So
And
nobody has to drive. Like it's
yeah,
just everything's right there.
that's
Um,
awesome too.
yeah, but when I used to go to the middle, or when I used to go to Gen Con in Milwaukee, you're always driving in. The nice thing about that too is that you can find parking for a little bit cheaper in Milwaukee because there's just lots of like free parking lots or parking garages that are free. But that was when Gen Con was only like 25 to 30,000 people. So we would stay at a hotel that's probably 15 miles out of town and then drive in, park at 6 a.m. and walk to the convention and start going to events and stuff at 8 a.m. But the Midwest Classic would be very different. It'd be a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe I don't know. Maybe they'll figure something else out. Who knows? Maybe it'll move to a different state. Who knows?
Could be. So speaking of the Midwest Classic, did you pick up any cool things? I saw some stuff in the background there, Josh and Matt, and I wanted to know, did you get anything interesting at the vendor hall or from friends or from private trades or whatever else while you were at the convention?
Matt, why don't you go ahead and start?
Um. Well, this year I wasn't really looking for anything in particular other than cases for my Game Boy Color games and for some Game Gear games. So I ended up spending a lot of money on other stuff anyway. I bought I think it's Onyx colored Game Boy Advance SP. It's a 101 model, meaning that the screen is backlit versus the old models that had the sidelit screens. One of the vendors had that along with a DS that was pretty beat up, and I ended up buying both of those actually. The DS was only $20. Nothing much wrong with it other than just being a little beat up. And then this I do not want to say because I still spent a lot of money on it, even though it's going for a lot more online.
What was that?
And then
Oh, that's the backlit
what?
one. Sorry.
Yeah. I also got the Super Game Boy this weekend, finally, so I can play my copy of Metroid 2 that I picked up this weekend also on my Super Nintendo with full color.
But slightly off speed.
Yeah. And then, I was glad to find this. A Wiimote, the Wii Motion Plus inside for $15. I've seen them for 20 or even 10, like 20 mostly in stores, and then 10 I got lucky at a pawn shop, I think. Or no, yeah, a pawn shop. So 15 wasn't too bad. And for any Game Boy player, you want to have a nice little Game Boy bag, nice little backpack. Does not fit me at all, but holds games and stuff. And then I also managed to get a Dreamcast cue card. One of the rarest things I've ever.
That's a VMU, Matt. Visual
sorry,
memory
there's
unit.
too many words involved.
It's okay.
There's too many words involved. But the rarest thing I've ever found is the cover for one of these, and
That's
it came
pretty awesome.
with. So
There you go.
yeah, now I can make sure the connections are safe and stuff. Otherwise, any other pickups I have, I got from online. Like this is a Gamester. You put your SP in there. You've got more hand room. Plus, it can hold 2 games on either side and then 1 on the top. And then you can switch between them depending on which one you want to play. I like it mostly because now my hands aren't so close together. And then if I ever want to get kinky with my PSP, I got this nice little rubber case for it. It actually looks like I should use a safe word anytime I use it.
Interesting. Did you already mention your $5 PS2 memory cards?
It was just one PS2 memory card. The other one was GameCube. Which I'm not sure how big it is compared to an official bigger memory card, but hey, I was I had fun this weekend, and it meant drinking a little bit. Things that were kind of shiny to me, and it just jumped out, like a changer with the labels of the systems you have. I didn't necessarily need another one, but now I can label them properly.
Were those your Saturday night purchases?
And I think that was, oh, that might have been either Friday or Saturday.
Yeah,
That might have been Friday because that was, I can't remember honestly.
I remember you were pretty loopy for a little bit there, and you were very proud of your $5 PlayStation 2 memory cards, and I was teasing you about that.
I was proud of the other stuff I found.
Okay.
Like the PS2 to Universal plug-in thing, which I'm sure they're easy enough to find, but you never know.
You never know.
So I didn't spend that much on it, so I'm not overly worried.
It's all good.
Otherwise, arrived Monday. We got back. I got this controller add-on thing for my PSP, which makes playing it on the TV even more fun. Because then I actually have grips for it. It's pretty cool.
Nice. Cool, dude.
I don't know. That's the majority of the fun stuff I got.
Dan, how about you?
I got a few things. Give me a second here to get up and take the headphones off, and I'll grab them as I've got them on the table behind me.
Okay. He's got to get up and grab them.
All right. So the first thing I have is this. It's Mega Man! That's right, the Blue Bomber himself. I got a little cute plush one. And it's got Capcom tags. I don't know for sure if it's legit. I've seen things with fake bootleg tags, but he's Mega Man, and he's a nice decoration for your game room.
Nice.
Next off is Haunted Halloween 85 for NES. This is a homebrew NES game that they had demos of, and I have a lot of NES games, and I said, this is pretty playable. I'll pick it up. It comes with an awesome green cartridge. Why green? Because Halloween I associate with orange, and it's green. I don't know. But kind of cool. I've played it a little bit when I was at the show. I have not actually tested this copy yet, but may do so today or tomorrow or something. And it came with a manual and a nice black box style NES box. So, a cool little pickup. And there's more.
Matt, did you see that booth for that game? That Haunted Halloween 85?
I think so. I saw a few like that. With the homebrews.
They had a whole booth. They had a whole booth just for that one game. It was actually really nice. Yeah, it was really nice.
Oh, wow.
What's that, Dan?
I may or may not have seen it.
All right, the next thing I picked up was Dragon Quest IV for PS1. And I have multiple versions of Dragon Quest IV. I have it for the original NES as Dragon Warrior 4. I have the Japanese Famicom version of Dragon Quest IV. I have it on Nintendo DS in English. But I wanted to pick this up because I collect Dragon Quest games, and it's my favorite actively updated franchise of games. So this was a nice, cool pickup. And for those of you who don't know, this game was originally supposed to be released in the US on the PS1. And apparently the developer, which I believe was Heartbeat, who did the port, went out of business before the port could come out. And they had all the source code, so it never actually got released in the US.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so Square Enix, it wasn't Square at that time, but Enix, I guess, had hired an outside company to do the remake, and then they didn't get the source code, and then the outside company went out of business, and then they couldn't translate it without doing like a ROM hack. So that's what happened there. Now we're going to go to a couple of other items, and it looks like Sarumaru's here, but we're not.
What's up, guys?
Hey, welcome, dude. How's it going?
Not too bad.
Hey.
I was hoping to make it back.
You made it back in time, just in time. Dan is showing off his pickups from the Midwest Gaming Classic.
Dan.
And we've got a
What's up,
Bomberman
Dan?
puzzle game. That's right. I don't even know what it's called. I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but it's a puzzle game, Bomberman.
Wait.
CD-ROM.
Dan,
That's
can you
right,
hear me?
PC Engine.
Dan, can you hear me?
I can, but I've got it kind of through headphones.
Oh, that's Panic Bomber.
Oh, is it
Panic
just
Bomber.
Panic Bomber?
It's an absolutely fantastic game too. It's got a
I
great
have it for
soundtrack.
Virtual Boy.
Oh, you're gonna love that one. It's actually really, really great.
Okay, yeah, I recognize the game. I looked through the back of it, and yeah, I'm just used to seeing it in red and black.
It's really, really good. It's got you'll if you liked that game on the Virtual Boy, you're gonna love the soundtrack on this one because all the music is just fantastic.
It's probably the same sound chip too, because NEC made most of the components in the Virtual Boy.
That's true, including Red Book Audio. So you're in for a treat, man.
And we have one more item to show, and then I've got one other thing to talk about that I bought that's not here because it's kind of broken. But it's been fixed. So the final item I picked up is something that's absolutely bizarre and weird and barely even exists in North America.
What? Now I'm excited.
I have picked up the Sega Master System 2. That's right. It's a miracle this thing exists because it comes with Alex Kidd in Miracle World and the version with the corrected and inverted controls. Now, you might be saying, why did they correct the controls? Why are they inverted? Because when Sega originally programmed the game, they had the equivalent of the B button doing the jumping and the A button doing the attacking, which of course I believe is 1 and 2 on the Sega Master System controller and its terrible disc of a D-pad. And believe me, it's a D-pad for D-bags because it's difficult to control. With that said, this is the corrected version of it, and it's pretty awesome. This is an NTSC system. I got the cables and controller with it, and the controller was kind of broken, but I took it apart and fixed it, and it's something I've always wanted in my collection. It will not play card games, so want to play the best game on the Sega Master System, Missile Defense 3D? Well, fuck you. This system won't do it because you have no 3D glasses. Thanks, Sega. The challenge will always be there, and the challenge will be to figure out why the hell it even lasted on the market as well as it did in Brazil. But that's the Sega Master System 2. Now, the final thing I picked up was I picked up a NES toaster system, which I've repaired many of, and you were talking about our good friend Quan earlier. Mm-hmm. Well, as it turns out, Quan has created this thing called a blinking light win. And what it is it's a replacement for the NES 72-pin connector that I would usually take out, boil, and bend the pins on. Well, I bought a blinking light win, and within 4 months it came. And I've had it sitting around waiting to pick up another cheap NES to actually install it on because I've got a few of them here. And I picked one up at the Midwest Gaming Classic for $20, put the blinking light win in, and I had no video coming out of the composite port. But I had sound. Put it into RF, it worked. So I gave it to our good friend, Mr. Chop5, and he was able to solder a pin back in, and now the composite video should be working, so I should have it back soon. But it's not here to show you, but I got a beat-up, kind of stained, nasty-looking NES that I washed and changed the connector on, and that Chop has since fixed. And that was the final thing I picked up at the Midwest Gaming Classic.
Speaking of Chop 5, Chop was also at the Midwest Gaming Classic on Sunday, and he brought our good friend Cybot, or Geo, to the yes, on Sunday, and that was he did. It was fantastic. It was fun. We got to share. We had the translated version of Zero Aguirre and Pia Carrot, and along with some fun other PCFX games like Chip Chan Kick and Zenki FX. And he was very excited about that because he hadn't seen those yet. So he got to play a lot of that. It was really cool to hang out with those guys as well. It was awesome.
Yeah, he had mentioned he had actually hung out at my house yesterday, and he was mentioning it was his first time experiencing the PCFX. And he's like, "Dude, this game Zero Grad, that game is awesome. Why the other games all gotta be tentacle shit?" So with the PCFX.
Yes, I was impressed. That guy was awesome. I had only chatted with him in the chat. I've never met him in person, but he was very flamboyant in his wind pants. It was awesome. It was like I felt like I had stepped into like an episode of The Goodfellas.
Well, trust me, I don't think he was the most flamboyant person at the Midwest Gaming Classic. Unfortunately, we've got him here on the show. Hey, Saramaro.
Whatever. You jerk. Where were you hiding this whole time? I was in and out of that turbo room. I did not see you not one time.
I was in there for a few hours. We were in there. Majors was drinking. Nullity was drinking. We were there quite a bit. And we didn't
Well, that's
see
nothing
you.
new.
We went out to see.
Whoa, whoa, whoa,
We went out to go to the vendors. Whoa, whoa, whoa! Hey! Whoa!
A measure of being there when Majors is drinking is not a good measure at all. He
I was just
doing
gonna say
all
that.
weekend.
The only time
I don't think
the only-
there was never a time he didn't have it.
The only time that him and Null were not drinking was Sunday morning between like noon and 5 p.m. because I did not see them. I did not see them having any beer until at least 5 p.m. and then Majors was going back with the finishing up my Lining Kugel's case of beer.
And it's funny how quiet they were on Sunday.
Yes,
They were super quiet because they hadn't had anything to drink.
they're so cute when they're sober and shy. So Sarumara, one thing that we all kind of went through was our experiences and some of our like opinions on how the show went and everything. But we didn't hear yet from you since you just joined. So if you want to quickly go over a little bit of what your experience was like, what you thought of the show, and then maybe share some pickups that you got from the show as well.
Oh man, I loved it. I thought it was awesome to be able to meet everybody. It was really cool to meet Matt and Chop and everybody.
Which Matt?
Majors is funny too.
Yeah, they were like
Matthias Matt and Matt, all the Matts. All two of them that were there.
there was actually 3. There was also Larkin.
Oh, I didn't see him.
He was in. He was.
I only know of 2 Matts.
Yeah, he was in a couple times, but no, yeah, he was mostly a museum guy.
Yeah, it was really good. I'm really stoked about next year. I'm definitely gonna come. I had a lot of fun. So it was cool to meet a lot of new people. And I picked up a ton of shit. I don't know that I want to share it all. I got most of my stuff I got from Windy Gaming. Just a ton of stuff. Like I got brand new Famicom carts.
Nice.
This is what is this? Flying Dragon is what it was called here.
Yep.
Which in Japan was Hirunoken. This is 3 apparently. I don't know if this ever came out here. The next one, kind of in the same series, is something called Fighting Wars, and it has Homeboy from the Flying Dragon series.
Nice.
And then I got Super Chinese 3, which was the last Super Chinese that I was missing. This was Super Ninja Boy in America, or whatever it was called. I think it was Super Ninja Boy, right?
Ninja Bros.
Yeah, Little Ninja Bros was the NES one, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then just a ton of PC Engine stuff. My one, almost everything I got was really, really cheap, except for one thing, and that was, I don't even see it here. It was Astro Superstars for the Sega Saturn. Great game, but yeah, I don't have it here. I got that from one dude. He had a couple. I got Magical Drop 3 from him, and then I picked up a copy of, or I got a free copy of one of Jody's East 4 repros, which was cool. He let me have it.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
That's a fan translated with audio and text.
Yeah.
Version of it.
And so like he prints them on.
Is
I don't
yours
know what
the
he puts them on.
booby edition?
Yeah, it is.
Yay!
You can't really see it, so it's not
Oh,
really.
I can see it.
Now we're banned from YouTube.
Boobs. Those are boobs.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And then a ton of other stuff, just a bunch of cheap games, just stuff that I wanted to like scratch off on my list of games here. And then that one game you recommended me, Josh. I don't know what it's called. It's got all kinds of kanji on it that I can't read.
Oh, it's such a good game.
Is that the
But-
one where you take pictures of everybody?
No.
No. That's funny. You're the second person to confuse it for that game. Somebody in the Turbo Room said that too.
Someone, yeah, it's not Gakisha Boy and it's not Photograph
That's
Boy.
Good boy.
It's
That's
just
really cool.
It's an excellent game. So I discovered that game many years ago at the Midwest Classic when Kirano and Gaijin and a few other guys used to go every year, and Kirano and all the laser dorks guys. He was walking around with me through the vendor hall. I think it was Midwest Classic, like 2006 or 7 or something. And he pointed at that game and he's like, "Josh, you must buy this." And it was like $5 sealed. And I'm like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Just trust me, buy it. You're gonna laugh your ass off." And I bought it. It's one of those games that you can beat in an afternoon once you figure out that rock paper scissors part. Like the whole rest of the game is more just experience than actually challenging. But once you play through it, you're going to be like, that is something I have to play through like annually. It's so funny. It's just great. But if they would have brought it out in the U.S., which would have been pretty much impossible, that game would have been the sequel to JJ and Jeff, for sure.
Yeah, it's very slapstick comedy type stuff. That's a lot of fun. And the game pretty much just plays itself, but it's an experience. And I'm glad I bought it. I'm glad you pushed me to buy that.
Yeah. You'll enjoy that one. I can't think of what it's called. It's got a crazy name. I think it starts with Y.
It does. It's like a crazy long name. And I was like, I don't know what this
rock,
is.
paper, scissors game?
Is that 4-player party game?
It has one rock paper scissors mini game in it, and there's lots of different mini games in it. There's like the pie eating one or whatever, and there's a couple other.
So it's like Alex Kidd in Miracle World then.
Times 1,000.
Kinda. Yeah, kinda. Like at the end, you do like a rock paper scissors thing, and the whole game's kind of just a platformer.
Has anyone here played Yakyukin Special?
Is that
Why
it?
does that sound familiar? No, I don't think that's it.
No, it's Yakyukin Special is the cheatingest. Like I'm trying to best describe it. It's a 3DO/Saturn game where it's strip rock paper scissors. And so it's so bad, it cheats and like theoretically you should be able to win 50% of the time. No. Like 99% of the time you will not win any one hand. You might tie, you might get a draw, but it cheats incredibly blatantly. So for your 3DO, you know what to try next. Grab the kids and play some strip rock paper scissors because they're not going to get any nudity.
Sweet.
That's hilarious.
Well, I did not go through my pickups yet, but I can kind of jump through them fairly quickly. First thing I wanted to mention. Sorry, are you done with what you were going to talk about?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That was all my pickups.
First thing I want to mention is I got a subscription for my 8-year-old. To a magazine called Little Player. It's a video game magazine for kids, and it's published by a couple guys, but one of them is most notably the Alessi family, Martin Alessi and his wife Shelley Alessi. They are the publishers, and Martin Alessi is also the editor-in-chief. And if the name Martin Alessi sounds familiar to you, it is because he used to be a writer for the old Electronic Gaming Monthly magazines back in the 80s and 90s.
Oh,
and
wow.
this is a good magazine. It's for a full subscription, which is six issues a whole year for $24. I picked it up for my son Preston. He is 8 years old. And I just got to show it to him yesterday, and he was reading through the whole thing like all afternoon. It was awesome. He was really excited for the new Star Fox game because they have like 6 pages of full color like review for it, talking about what it's going to be like when it gets here and everything. And it's also very like focused on like kids. It tries to talk about all games that are rated E for everyone. So it's a lot of Wii U. It's a lot of DS stuff in here. It also talks about tablets and like phone games and stuff in here too. But it also has like just best bang for your buck as far as like if you're a parent and you're looking for games for your kids, what types of games you should buy. And I don't necessarily need that kind of advice because I'm fairly knowledgeable about what's good for kids to play and what's not. Like my teenagers play a lot of Killer Instinct on the Xbox One, and they asked if they could play Mortal Kombat. They want to play Mortal Kombat X, and I'm like, I don't know, because if it's in this house, then everyone's going to have to play it, or at least everyone's going to be exposed to it. And I've got, younger than teens, and I got teens, so it's like, let's just stick with Killer Instinct, because that's T for teen. But here it shows, like, top 5
I've seen a lot of that game.
It's pretty darn violent. Mortal Kombat's really, really violent. But, like, top 5 Wii games, this is just geared for children.
Yeah.
Then they got the Xbox One. Games that are okay for the kids, and then the PS4, and then the DS, and it just kind of keeps going. and it's really awesome. They rate the systems as for like which ones are best for kids, and they rate like different games are coming out. They do previews, they do reviews, and it's just awesome. This kind of reminds me of those like really like little kiddie game magazines that we had in the 80s, sort of like early Nintendo Power or what was it?
Highlights for games.
Yeah, no. But do you remember like Game Players, just the magazine Game Players? That was like
Yeah, or even Game Pro was aimed at little kids.
yeah, it's true. It was because every single game was reviewed as a 5 out of 5. At least 2 or 3 games every month were perfect scores.
Well, not only that, someone was getting electrocuted and their hair went into a 90s spike with a smile. That's how you knew the game was good, or bad, or reviewed in Game Pro.
That's true. Yes, so if you've got kids and you're looking for a magazine for kids, and it is in print, you can also get a digital version. So you get a digital version and the print version. You can get them both sent to you for $25 a year. It's pretty awesome. And I actually read through the magazine. I thought it was a really cool deal, and my kids are excited about it. So it's pretty cool. I wound up finding a couple Coco games. Woo! I got Polaris and Color Baseball for the Tandy Color computer. You don't see these very often, but after I came home on Sunday night, and these are for the Tandy Color computer, which is also the Radio Shack or the TRS-80. It was their line of computers that used cartridges like this. It's probably pretty comparable to like the Intellivision, maybe Coleco, a little bit better than Atari in my opinion, because some of the games had like a lot of color to them. But these are really fun games. Color Baseball is the first baseball video game I ever owned back when I was younger. And actually, funny story about these is when I picked these up and brought them home, the guy who sold them to me, his vendor table, he knew who I was, and apparently there was somebody else there looking for Tandy Color computer stuff, and he got a hold of me via Facebook asking if I had more Tandy stuff that I was either looking to trade or sell or whatever, because he had talked to that vendor about who I was when I came to buy them. Because apparently he passed on them and then walked back later, and they weren't there anymore because I took them. But I actually got these two and Centipede for the 7800 for 3 for $10. I was pretty happy about that since they were all listed as $5 each. So.
Nice. It's good you can get the adult version of Centipede. Your kids couldn't play Human Centipede.
That's too bad, yeah. Then around Windy, I of course ran over to Windy's booth and I got a couple things from him. And this one is a Neo Geo Pocket Color game. I don't know what it is.
Link 2.
What is it? Which one is it?
Puzzle Link 2.
Oh, cool. It looks fun. It's one of those magical drop type games. I love those. There's a lot of fun on the Neo Geo, so I just grabbed this one. I don't exactly remember how much it was, but everything's included, so I'm really stoked about that. Yeah, so I'm gonna be able to play some Neo Geo Pocket Color games.
Wow. Never seen it.
I got Muscle Bomber, which of course is Saturday Night Slam Masters for the Super Famicom. This is also from... Oh, no, this is actually from somebody... This one was actually from the Evo vendor there that was there, Saru, that you were telling me about, from Vegas.
Yeah.
I got this.
That's funny.
I got this for $12. I got Arcana for the Super Nintendo, which is a great card-based classic role-playing game. And then I actually wound up finally picking up Final Fantasy Mystic Quest. I think he gave me these all for $40, which was... It only saved me like $2, but I was pretty happy. They're all in nice condition. They're good games. And I've been looking for Arcana forever, and for whatever reason on eBay or wherever, I haven't seen them in forever, but whatever Arcana on eBay is always around $30. So I'm like, for $15, I'm cool with that. Rampage for the Sega Master System. That's Dan's favorite system in the world. I figured I'd pick up this one. I like the case is a different color. I was kind of impressed with that. And it's got the manual and the cartridge in there too, so that's pretty cool.
It's a red checkerboard. That makes it better.
Indeed. Then the most expensive game that I got over the weekend was actually from a vendor that's about 20 miles from my house, Johnny C's Cards. He gave me this for $25, a boxed NBA Jam Tournament Edition.
Excellent.
Ooh.
It's a fun.
Glenn Robinson and Vin Baker.
Thank you. Yes, I can. That's what I'm mostly excited about. To play as those mid-'90s Milwaukee Buck All-Stars. But yeah, so yeah, NBA Jam Tournament Edition for the Jag. That's cool. It's just one of those games where you can kind of watch it and play it. and kind of compare it to the other versions because the Jag's so weird with its really.
I gotta find my.
Yeah, your Game Gear. Then I finally picked up Final Fantasy.
My Game Gear version.
Oh, of NBA Jam. Yeah, I got Final Fantasy, the NES cart. This is the original North American one. I got that for $15. Then something that was actually waiting for me in the mail when I got home on Sunday night, because it actually came on Thursday in the mail, but I forgot to get the mail before I left for Midwest Classic, was Super Mario Brothers 3 Mix.
What is that?
It's a homebrew game from AliExpress. It was $14, and it's apparently, from what everyone is saying, is the absolute best homebrew Mario game made on the NES so far. It's got elements of Mario's 1, 2, and 3, and Mario World in this game. It's got the Mario 3 engine, but they added Yoshi to it.
Cool.
It's supposed to be really, really fun. A lot of people have talked it up like crazy, so I'm like, finally, I'm just gonna pick it up and got it.
He's got ears like in Super Mario Land.
Yes, it does. It has penguin suits too. It's got all kinds of crazy stuff. Like
Cool.
they went back to the drawing board on some of it. A lot of original music and other things. And then the big thing that I got, the very last thing that I got, when I swore to God up and down that I was not going to buy anything more. On Sunday night, I went to the Windy table, and there's a little bit of a story to this. I don't know if you guys care or not, but there was a guy there. Let's look at this bastard. It's a steering wheel for the Japanese Sega Saturn. This was sitting at Windy's booth all weekend long for $50. There was a dude there that was apparently trying to get him to sell it to him for whatever reason, for less than he was asking. And on Sunday afternoon, he was offering it for $40. And there was a guy there asking if he would cut it in half and sell it to him for $20. And he was just being really rude, and he wouldn't drop it, and he just kept going and kept going. And finally, Chris is like, "Listen, I'm not selling it to you for $20." And the guy walked off in a storm of fit. He was just angry and upset. And then, as I was walking up to the table, Chris saw me and said, "Josh, you need a Sega Saturn steering wheel." And I'm like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "You can have it for $10. And I was like, "Okay." And then he said, and then he had this sitting next to it, and just kind of threw it in for the whole.
Ha! That's cool.
So it's a racing game that will go along with the racing steering wheel that I have. I have not tested this out yet, but the box is ridiculously huge, and the steering wheel looks really nice. It'll be fun to have at like conventions and things like that, for just to have it and maybe even play it around with it. But I don't know. I've never ever gotten into the steering wheels like for consoles and stuff, but this will be the first one, and that is all of the scores. There was also
Nice.
An interesting vendor at the Midwest Classic that was brand new, and they were part of that whole was it that loot crate, that whole craze about sending people monthly boxes or whatever with toys and trinkets in it, and they were a group of people that sell a monthly box, and the boxes are $19.99, $29.99, or $39.99 a month, and it depends on what size you packages, and they send you random games like Nintendo, Genesis, Super Nintendo, PlayStation, I don't know what it all is, and Game Boy games apparently too, and Game Gear stuff. And I don't know where they get all their games from, but they apparently just buy them up from thrift stores or pawn shops or whatever all around the country, and then they send those to their members every month, just random games. But what they don't send to people is cartridges with ripped labels or sports games. So
those are the dudes giving those sports games out, right?
Yes. So what they wound up doing was having all these bins on the floor in front of their vendor table, and every game was $1. So in the middle of the day, I think it was either Saturday, in the middle of the day or Saturday night, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was funny. I was telling a couple people in the Turbo Room about this booth that had all these games, and they were $1 each. It was sports games, it was games with ripped labels or whatever, and they were just $1 each. You just fill up a bag and you say how many's in there, and then you just give them $1 for every game that you picked out. And so I think it was Esther and myself went, and we went to that table, and I picked out 28 games.
Wow.
most of them were crap, but regardless, worst case scenario, we have a friend who does like reproduction stuff. So worst case scenario,
donors.
yeah, worst case scenario, they can use them as donors. I know there was a bunch of people just ripping a whole stacks of them into their bags just to use them specifically for donors, but I was actually there looking for a purpose. I found a ripped copy of F-Zero, the Super Nintendo game. I found, and these are just because the covers, the labels are just so ripped up you can't even tell what the game is, but I could see like the F-Zero cars. There was F-Zero, there was Miss Pac-Man, I got Jim Powers and Lost Dimensions. I got a copy of Extra Innings for Super Nintendo, which sounds stupid, but I actually really love that game. I have a lot of fun with that one. That's a Sony ImageSoft baseball game on the Super Nintendo. And then a whole bunch of crap. I mean, there was just stuff that I had no reason for ever buying, but I just grabbed them anyway. I know I got a few Genesis games. I got like Stargate and a few others. I didn't bring them up with me, but it's like 28 games. And Esther was also picking some games through too because she's got a Game Boy Advanced and her kids like to play Game Boy Advance games. So we were finding like the Dora the Explorers and a few other games that maybe had some damaged labels that were going to be fun for her kids to play with too. So that was a pretty cool thing, and that's where a majority of the crap when I was trying to fill my bags up and my boxes up with all these new things that I got, and that's where a majority of my crap had come from was that booth, the 28 freaking games that we bought that weekend. But overall, it was ridiculous. A lot of stuff. I think, and then also you were talking, Saru, about getting that reproduction of East 4, one of Jody's discs that he got, those bootlegs. I also got a few from Jody too. Jody's got an awesome Facebook page called Turbo Reproductions, where he can get you copies of some homebrew games or fan translations that you can't normally find anywhere else. He can get you really high quality burns of the games and really, really nice instruction manuals that he puts together himself. But I wound up getting the 2 translated PCFX games and a few other things as well. So yeah, overall, great weekend. Had a great time. It was just fun to sit and shoot the shit with my friends, drinking all weekend, had fun playing games all weekend. It was just a blast.
It was
One thing you need to mention about Turbo Fest. So Meng beat Image Fight 2 throughout the whole weekend, playing it. Like literally beat it within minutes of having to leave too.
That's true. He first played the game when he sat down on Friday night, sat down and started playing it, and we were talking about how hard it was. And I don't know if that just made him even more determined to play it, but he continued to play it. He saved his game on Friday night, played it all day Sunday, or all day Saturday. I shouldn't say all day, but he played for like 2 or 3 hours, then leave for a couple hours, come back 2 or 3 more hours. And he got further than any of us had ever gotten. Myself, Jody, Null, Saru, Maru, we were all talking about how hard the game was, how it was like, I had only seen level 3 once in my life. Like, I've only ever gotten past that. The second level boss was so difficult. But he kept going, and by Sunday morning he was at like level 10, and then he wound up going the rest of the way and beating it.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
That game had that many levels in it.
Yeah, I think Jody said he recorded it on his phone or something. So, all right. Anyway, it was crazy weekend. It was a lot of fun. Thank you guys so much for being here this week. I think we definitely need to do this again, get you guys on again and talk more about stuff. But anybody have any last words before we shoot it off? Henshin Engine. I did promote that on the show. I talked about the demos. I talked about the buttons and the shirts that we gave out, all kinds of fun stuff. So don't worry about that, man. But anyway, thank you guys so much for being a part of the show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Always remember, follow me on the Twitter @_Joshua Turbo so that you can tell me things that you want to tell me. Anyway, thank you guys so much, and everybody, good night.
Go bye-bye. Yeah.
Good night.
That was awful. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Animal.
Oh, that was cool.